So it turns out that Democrats are winning elections with gerrymandering and dark money. Is that hypocrisy? Let's talk about it in today's video. Hi, I'm Mike Greiner. I'm a lifelong Democratic activist who's concerned about the direction our country is taking. If you share my concerns, maybe you could like this video, subscribe to this channel, maybe even click that little bell that will notify you when I post something new. Well, I'm actually very familiar with the state of Colorado. Back in 1992, I actually ran a campaign for Congress there. It was a tough district, a Republican district, but this was a time when Colorado was at best a swing state, possibly even a little bit of a lean Republican state. My, how things have changed. Colorado is now a pretty solidly Democratic state. In the last election, the Republican U.S. Senator was badly beaten by a Democrat. And Democrats control the state house pretty firmly at this point. So you would think that Democrats would be taking advantage of this status to engineer a gerrymander, especially given the fact that Colorado, being a growing state, actually gained a congressional district in the last census. But such is not going to happen. That's because in Colorado, with the support of Democrats, the state adopted an independent redistricting commission, where Democrats probably could have done a good job to essentially give themselves an additional congressional seat. This independent commission actually passed a redistricting map that really balances both parties very fairly and gives each one an equal shot. Imagine that. This, of course, is quite the contrast with what's going on in New York and Illinois, where Democrats also have control of the state legislature and the governorship, and where they have been redistricting ruthlessly, gerrymandering like crazy. I can tell you for a fact that if the Republicans had done in New York what the Democrats are doing, or in Illinois for that matter, I'd be screaming bloody murder. So why am I not? Well, that's because we're kind of in a situation we've got to fight fire with fire. Republicans have made it very clear that they are going to win at all costs. And the stakes, quite frankly, are just too high for us to turn our backs on it. The rights of black people, other minority groups, women, the LGBTQ, not to mention an economy that works for everybody, with protections for employees, not just employers, are the kind of things that would be lost if the Republicans are allowed to gain control. And that's aside from the environment, which I don't think can put up with another Republican presidency like Trump's. So because the stakes are so high, Democrats need to fight fire with fire. And that means that we have to gerrymander to make sure that we can counter the gerrymandering efforts of Republicans in states like Texas, North Carolina, and Ohio, where they have control of the legislature. Similarly, there was an article in the New York Times that decried the fact that Democrats were outraged about dark money, and then they won with it in 2020, raising more dark money than the Republicans had. Again, this is an example of the fact that this is the system we're dealing with right now. As Democrats, we need to play within this system. The stakes are simply too high for us to run campaigns with one hand tied behind our back, giving the Republicans the benefit of certain structural advantages, given the fact that they already have a bunch of them anyway. We need to do everything we can to even the playing field. Now, does this mean that we're hypocrites? No, because we're saying we need to get rid of dark money. We need to get rid of gerrymandering. But it needs to be done on a basis where we create a level playing field for everybody, where everybody is impacted by these changes. I mean, refusing to engage in gerrymandering or to take dark money in a system that we have is somewhat akin to bringing a knife to a gunfight. I hate to say it. Now, we may not like the system we have, but that's the system we need to run in. And if we're going to change it, we need to get power first. I know all too often we as Democrats or as liberals, we kind of decry the idea of getting power. But the reality is, that's how you make change. I mean, just imagine what we would have been able to accomplish if we had just 2 more U.S. senators. Not only could we have passed the full Build Back Better agenda, as well as election reform and voter protections, but we probably could have passed the PRO Act, which would have given the union some ability to fight back against ruthless employers. We would have been able to eliminate some of the Trump tax cuts and address inequality better. And we might have even been able to bring statehood to D.C. and maybe Puerto Rico, giving them a little bit of power. Again, that's just 2 more U.S. senators, and we could have done all that. Indeed, with the election reform legislation that Democrats would have passed with just 2 more U.S. senators, We would have gotten rid of the gerrymandering, and we would have taken steps to address the dark money crisis in elections. This is not hypocrisy. This is totally consistent with the fact that we have a system that's the way it is right now. We have to live within the present. We can't live within some kind of fantasy system in which we can still win while we give all the good cards to the other side. It's only when reforms are passed fairly that impact everybody and create a level playing field that the system will really be changed. And the alternative is if we let Republicans gain control by giving away all the advantages to them, then what they're going to do is make the system even worse. Well, if you like this video and want to find out more about what the Republicans are doing to destroy American democracy, check out this video right here. I'll see you then, and in the meantime, let's hope for continued progress. Thank you.